Okay, so it all started with this annoying alarm clock. It was 5 a.m. on the first Monday of February 2010. I'm Max Jones, a 26-year-old electrician from Anaheim, California. I dragged myself out of bed and headed to the construction site. I was already running late. At the makeshift breakfast area, I found Liam, one of my best friends, already chowing down. We grew up together, went to high school with John, and have been buddies ever since. Liam became a carpenter after graduation, and I stuck with being an electrician. John, on the other hand, went into sales, never really wanting to get his hands dirty like Liam and me. Ready for another exciting week, Max? Liam winked, with his usual sarcastic grin. Exciting? Sure, if you consider this exciting, I replied, rolling my eyes. By the way, how was your Sunday? I heard you got hammered on Saturday night. Liam just laughed. Yeah, I woke up with a killer headache, but Mary made me a mean hangover breakfast. I wonder if John got the same treatment from Becky, I said. He must have been even worse off than you. Dude, he shouldn't have switched to Fireball after a night of vodka. That never ends well, Liam chuckled, and we headed out to start work. Liam and John both settled down. Liam married Mary about 6 months ago, and John and Becky have been married for almost 2 years. John and Becky were the first in our group to get hitched. They started dating about 3 years ago. Then, Jessica, my ex-fiancée, and I started dating, along with Liam and Mary. But things changed 3 months ago when I found out Jessica was cheating on me with her boss, just 2 months before our wedding. Even though it's been a few months, the shock is still there. And what really threw me for a loop was that last Saturday John tried to convince me to get back with Jessica. I guess Becky put him up to it. She's pretty strong-willed, she can manipulate people to do what she wants. John is always willing to do whatever Becky wants, to the point where Liam and I joke that he's her little puppet. I'm sure Becky wanted me back with Jessica because she missed her best friend, but what about John? He knew Jessica cheated on me just a few months ago, and I can't imagine John would forgive Becky if she cheated on him. At lunchtime, I told Liam about John's advice. Can you believe it? John told me to give Jessica another chance. He said everyone makes mistakes, and she's apologized. Liam shrugged. That's pretty weird, but I guess Becky told him to say that. I think so too. I get why Becky wants me back with Jessica so they can hang out like old times. But what about John? You know what? Becky and Mary still keep in touch with Jessica after the two of you broke up. They're still best friends. I pondered for a moment. So, if Becky doesn't care about me getting back with Jessica, why is John so worried? Things will get awkward when I have a new girlfriend and they're still friends with Jessica. Liam sighed. Who knows? But if I were you, I wouldn't get back with her. The last time we hung out, she was with the same boss she cheated on you with. I froze, stunned. What? You're telling me you hang out with my ex-girlfriend and the guy she cheated on me with? Liam stammered. It wasn't just me and Mary. John and Becky were there too. And to be fair, I didn't know Jessica would be there, or who that guy was until we sat down. Are you serious? Instead of kicking her out, you went out with her and the guy she cheated on me with? You should have told her to get lost and punch that guy for me. Liam was flustered. At first I just thought he was someone new she was dating. But when I realized I told Mary the first wasn't comfortable and wouldn't let it happen again. I looked at him, shaking my head. So weak. It seems Becky and Mary want to keep Jessica in the group and leave me behind. That's not fair. The three of us are the reason they even know each other, and you two are hanging out with her after everything she did. Liam stayed silent, just muttering, I wasn't against it. I took a deep breath. But I still don't understand why John would advise me to get back with Jessica when he knows she's still dating that boss. I need to talk to him. Liam smirked. Sure, go ahead. But take it easy on him, John's just doing Becky's bidding these days. On Wednesday, after work, I agreed to meet John for a beer at a bar called Sinners. I heard it was decent during the day, but at night, it turned into a late-night dive. Anyway, it was John's choice, so I decided to check it out. When I walked in, the space was a bit noisy and dark, more of a club vibe than a regular bar. I quickly spotted John sitting alone in a corner booth. He was wearing a neat button-down shirt, eyes slightly tired from a long day at work. Hey John, what can I get you? I asked, walking towards him. Hey Max, just a light beer for me. I'm driving later. Of course, I said, heading towards the bar. The bartender was a short blonde with striking green eyes. She looked about our age, 25 to 26, and I noticed her glancing at John before focusing on me. "One bourbon on the rocks and a light beer for my straight friend," I joked, giving her a friendly smile. She chuckled softly, coming right up. When I returned to the booth with the drinks, the bartender made another joke. I should have known John is the light beer type. Becky must have neutered him. I was surprised. "Wait, you know John and Becky?" The girl laughed. "Yeah, of course. Becky is one of my best friends from high school." I chuckled. "That's interesting. I'm Max." "Oh, Max. About to marry Jessica, right? It's nice to finally meet you." I was a little taken aback. Seems John talks about me a lot. "Well, actually, Jessica tells me about you. I know her too, and Mary and Becky. Don't worry, I won't tell her you're here." Nancy, that was her name, said with a mischievous smile before going back to work. Back at the table, I took a sip of my bourbon and asked John, "Didn't know you were a regular here?" John raised an eyebrow. "Why do you think that?" "Nancy, the bartender. She knows everyone except me." John chuckled. "She probably doesn't know Liam either." I took another sip and looked at John directly. "So why did you pick this place? This looks more like a late-night party spot than a casual bar." John smiled faintly. "I don't come here often, just occasionally with Becky. She likes to drink and dance here." I frowned. "And you don't mind taking her to a place where she's likely to be hit on all night?" John was silent for a few seconds before asking, "What about you? Do you mind?" "Mind what?" "About Jessica. She comes here with Becky too, so, do you mind?" John's words struck me. This is the first I'm hearing about this, but yeah, I would mind if I knew. She's not my problem anymore anyway. I paused and looked John straight in the eye, which brings me to why I wanted to see you. Why did you try to convince me to get back with Jessica on Saturday, when you know she's still dating that boss who cheated on me? John hesitated, then sighed. "I'm sorry about that. Becky and I thought you two would be happier together." I gave a dry laugh, shaking my head. "You mean Becky thought so, and you're just doing her bidding?" John shrugged. "There's some truth to that. Becky said Jessica regrets it and is willing to leave Thomas if you take her back." Anger started to bubble up inside me. Then why didn't she just leave him and get back with me? Instead, she got Becky to do her dirty work while she keeps her boss. Tell Becky to never mention this again. If Jessica wants forgiveness, she can do it herself. John sighed. "All right. I guess Jessica realized you're not coming back, which is why Becky wanted me to check in with you." I scoffed. "Check in? I don't want to hear another word about her. Anything else? Why did you go out with her and that guy without telling me?" John hung his head. "She's Becky's friend and they still keep in touch. But I understand. It won't happen again, I promise." I sat there quietly for a moment, trying to control my emotions. "Look, John, I'm not mad at you. But this whole thing with Jessica is driving me crazy." John nodded, looking remorseful. "I understand. Okay, I have to go. I just got a call about a last-minute client meeting." I waved. "All right, see you later, John." John got up, gave a slight smile, and turned to leave, leaving me sitting there feeling like I had lifted a weight off my shoulders. After finishing my bourbon, I decided to order another one. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to spend some time chatting with Nancy, the attractive blonde bartender. Who knows, maybe I'd discover something interesting. As I sat down on the stool at the bar, she immediately noticed me. "Another one?" Nancy asked, her eyes mischievous. "Of course, thanks," I replied. As Nancy poured my drink, I remembered our brief conversation about Becky, Jessica, and Mary. Nancy had said she was best friends with Becky from high school, but I wondered if they were still close and if she knew anything about Jessica and Mary. Maybe it was time to find out a little more. "So, you went to school with Becky. What was she like? Still manipulating people to do her bidding?" I asked, intentionally teasing her. Nancy scoffed. "Yeah, not much has changed." "What about Jessica and Mary? Did you meet them through Becky?" I continued, wanting to pry further. Just then, Nancy held up her finger, signaling for me to hold on. A few other patrons were waiting to order drinks, and she had to serve them first. I sat back, waiting, observing how she worked. The bar was starting to get busier, and the atmosphere became more lively. When she returned, Nancy apologized. "Sorry, I don't have time to chat right now. Are you with anyone?" John just left, I replied, shrugging. She tilted her head, looking curious. I mean, do you have a girlfriend? Oh no, not anymore, I said, a little surprised by the question. Well, how about we grab coffee tomorrow then? Nancy smiled, her voice sweet but with a hint of playful challenge. I replied with a playful grin. You asking me out? She chuckled. No, I just don't want to cause trouble for your girlfriend if you have one. So, coffee. I nodded. Sure, but how about lunchtime? I work early but not too far from here. There's a coffee shop just down the block. How about noon tomorrow? She suggested. Deal, I replied, already thinking about our meeting the next day. After finishing my last drink, I left the bar feeling a little excited about our upcoming encounter. Tomorrow promised to be interesting, even if she claimed it wasn't a date. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop right on time and immediately heard a cheerful voice call out my name. I turned around and saw Nancy waving at me. In the daylight, she looked even prettier, with her natural radiance and sparkling eyes. Hey Nancy, you look amazing today, I said. Nancy smiled back, gently replying, starting with flattery, I see. Why didn't you just order yourself a lunch? I chuckled. What about you? Already did. You're late, she said, her voice playful. Sorry about that, I had a busy morning at work, I explained before heading to the counter to order. While we waited, I couldn't help but glance at Nancy again. I noticed small tattoos on her arms and neck. They only added to her allure and personality. She truly had a wild yet captivating beauty that I couldn't tear my eyes away from. After ordering, I sat down across from Nancy, trying to start a conversation. So Nancy, why did you want to meet here, if it wasn't a date? Nancy looked up from her phone, setting it down on the table before replying. You were the one who wanted to know about your ex-girlfriend and her friends. I'm just here to answer your questions. I laughed. I didn't need to set you up just to ask that. I could have asked last night at the bar. Honestly, why did you arrange this meeting? Nancy looked at me intently, her eyes narrowed slightly. So, you're not interested in knowing more about Jessica anymore? Honestly, I don't care about her anymore. We broke up 3 months ago after I found out she was cheating on me with her boss. Nancy gave a dry laugh. So the fact that she was cheating on you long before meeting that boss doesn't bother you? I was taken aback. What? What are you saying? Jessica was cheating on me before she met that boss? Nancy looked at me, her voice laced with sarcasm. Goodness, you're quick. I can see why she chose you. Confused, I asked, how do you know that? She shrugged. I knew Jessica before she met you, and during that time I saw her going home with a lot of different guys. Anger flared up inside me. That bitch. Nancy looked at me calmly. You got away, Max. Imagine if you found all this out after marrying her. I nodded but still couldn't believe it. But are you sure? Jessica was cheating on me the whole time we were together. Nancy nodded. Definitely. And not just Jessica, Becky and Mary too. I couldn't believe my ears. Wait, you're saying Becky and Mary were cheating on John and Liam too? Nancy scoffed. With that kind of intelligence, you really should be a brain surgeon. I shook my head, disbelieving what I was hearing. This is unbelievable. Nancy became serious. Listen, they're all like that. Becky, Jessica, and Mary were all sluts before they met you guys. They married you for stability, while still finding fun on the side. I felt like the world was crumbling around me, but I also knew I couldn't deny the truth. Thanks for telling me, I whispered. Nancy gave a slight smile. No problem. I just hope you know you got out of a mess. Yeah, I realize that now. Sitting at the bar with a beer in front of me, I shook my head, trying to organize all the jumbled thoughts in my head. Everything Nancy said was still spinning in my mind. As far as I knew, Becky, Jessica, and Mary only met when we started dating them. But Nancy was saying something completely different. You don't understand? They were already best friends, Nancy emphasized. Becky, Jessica, and Mary have been hanging out long before Becky met John. When Becky started dating John and knew he was best friends with Liam and you, she made a plan to set you two up with her two best friends. That way they could keep their relationships with you guys. But more importantly, they could still have fun with other guys without getting caught. I couldn't believe my ears. So you're saying Jessica only dated me because I was John's best friend? And Mary did the same with Liam? Nancy chuckled, nodding. Exactly. They were laughing about how perfectly it all worked out. I leaned back in my chair, trying to swallow the bitter truth. But why would you tell me this? You're Becky's best friend. Nancy shook her head, her eyes serious. I haven't been close with Becky since high school. I never liked Jessica and Mary. Just because they thought I was their friend, they felt comfortable telling me everything when they were drunk. You'd be surprised what people say when they think they're safe. I furrowed my brow. But what made you tell me now? What's in it for you? Nancy shrugged, her eyes becoming mischievous. Why does it have to be in it for me? Maybe I just don't like the way they treated you guys like fools. Frustration welled up inside me. But you don't even know us. Why expose all this? Nancy answered plainly. Because I can't stand seeing people get taken advantage of, especially not guys who don't deserve it. I sat in silence for a moment, feeling like I had been punched in the gut. So John knew all of this from the start. He was in on this plan, too? Nancy raised an eyebrow, then gave a slight nod. Yeah, he knew. Actually, if you think back, wasn't John the one who introduced you to Jessica in the first place? I sat up straight, suddenly remembering that Nancy was absolutely right. Wait, you're saying John helped Becky set you and Liam up with Jessica and Mary from the beginning? Nancy smirked. Exactly. Rage bubbled inside me, but I tried to control it. Damn it, so everything John did was to protect Becky, to keep her close. Nancy nodded. He knew that you dating Becky's best friends would help keep her close. John loves Becky madly and would do anything to keep her. I clenched my fists. And he knew everything about Jessica cheating on me, but he didn't say a word. Nancy looked at me with a sympathetic gaze. Yeah, he knew, and that's the worst part. But he's too weak to speak up. Becky made him that way. I gritted my teeth. John's my best friend, and he betrayed me like this. Nancy was silent for a moment, then spoke softly. He's also a victim in Becky's game. But he lost you guys, and he knows it. I took a deep breath. He should have stopped it. John betrayed our friendship, and that's unforgivable. Nancy looked at me, her eyes glinting with a hint of determination as she saw the resolve in my voice. I know this is hard, Max, but at least you know the truth now. Don't let them control you anymore. I sat there, reflecting on what she said. Thank you for telling the truth. I owe you one. Nancy smiled slightly, tilting her head. No problem. I just hope you can do the right thing from here. I replied with a weak smile, but in my heart, I knew things would never be the same. After work, Liam and I went to a bar near the Sinners Club where Nancy worked. Liam was quieter than usual, and as we sat down, he started talking about the emotional afternoon he had endured. I've been bouncing between anger and frustration all day, Liam said, a tinge of sadness in his eyes. I understood that feeling all too well. I had been in the same boat just a few months ago, when I discovered Jessica's betrayal. We tried to make small talk, avoiding painful topics while we drank, but the tension still hung in the air between us. Every time I glanced at my phone, I felt impatient, waiting for a text from Nancy. Around 8 p.m. the message finally came, they're at the club, and John's with them. There was something strange about this message. It was Nancy's number, but her name didn't show up in my contacts. I scrolled back to see previous messages, and then I realized this wasn't the first time I received a text from this number. It was from this same number that I received the anonymous message informing me about Jessica cheating. So weird, it turned out Nancy had been warning me 3 months ago, anonymously letting me know that Jessica was sleeping with her boss. She knew everything long before we met. I texted Nancy back, letting her know we were on our way to the club. She directed us to enter through the back entrance where she would let us in without anyone noticing. As we stepped into the storage area with stacks of beer kegs, a security guard was waiting and led us to a surveillance room in the back. The small room had a few chairs, a series of lockers, and most importantly, a series of security camera monitors mounted on the wall. This was how we would watch them without having to face them directly. Liam and I sat down in front of the monitors. On one screen, I saw the 3 women, Becky, Jessica, and Mary, sitting and drinking with John and another man. Nothing happened for the first few minutes, but then Nancy entered, carrying a few beers and sitting down beside us. Hey, you guys probably need this, she said, handing each of us a beer before settling down. This job definitely requires a lot of hydration, I joked, trying to mask the tension in my voice. We looked back up at the monitors. The 3 women were still sitting there, along with John and the man I didn't recognize. Nancy pointed to him. He's Gary. He's a player, he's been with both Becky and Jessica before. Maybe he'll try his luck with Mary tonight. Liam muttered in frustration. I hope so, I just want this all to end quickly. Nancy looked at Liam, seriously warning him, "Don't do anything stupid. It's not Gary's fault they came here to cheat. If you make a scene, security will have to deal with you. I'm not planning on causing trouble. If she's cheating on me, I'll be glad to be rid of her," Liam replied, but his voice was laced with bitterness. Time passed, another guy joined them. Jessica got up and started dancing with him. Mary quickly followed suit, stepping onto the dance floor with Gary. Liam glued his eyes to the screen, watching his wife in the arms of another man. I didn't know what to say to comfort him at this moment. Jessica was also kissing her dance partner. Even though it had been 3 months since I broke up with her, seeing this scene still hurt. Nancy stood up and took away the empty beer bottles, asking us, "Want more beer? I can get the security guard to bring some in." "You think they'll leave soon?" Liam asked, his voice tinged with dejection. Nancy looked up at the monitor where Becky was flirting with another guy. "Probably not for long. Becky looks like she's found her guy." "Yeah, bring us a few more. We'll be here until this is all over," I replied, feeling a sense of unease in my heart. Nancy left, and Liam and I sat back in silence, the tension thick in the air. Liam let out a hiss. "I can't believe I was that stupid. She's been taking advantage of me this whole time. I was blind for so long." I patted him on the shoulder. "Don't beat yourself up, Liam. I didn't know anything about Jessica until I found out the truth. But at least you weren't married. I have to worry about a divorce, and she'll try to take everything I have." Liam sighed, the despair evident in his voice. "Listen, maybe you should transfer all your assets before she can do anything. You can transfer your truck and savings to me to avoid being split in half during the divorce. I'll give it back to you when this is all over." Liam hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I'll do that. Just make sure we do it right." The two of us continued watching the monitors. Becky was kissing her new guy right in front of John, but he just sat there, unfazed. I couldn't understand how he could stand it. "He's such a coward," Liam whispered, his eyes still glued to the screen. "Yeah, unbelievable," I agreed. Finally, around 9 p.m., the group of them got up and left the club. Liam and I looked at each other, knowing things were about to change. We saw the truth, and now there was no reason to hide it anymore. After finishing our beers, Liam and I decided to switch to the Sinners Club, where Nancy worked, to sit at the bar. As soon as we sat down, Nancy quickly recognized us and brought us 2 fresh beers. She nodded her greeting, placing the drinks in front of us. "How much do we owe you?" I asked, grabbing my beer. "They'll be over tonight. But you can throw some extra cash my way if you want. 3 drinks is the limit for my broken heart." Nancy chuckled before going back to serving other customers, that mischievous smile making me grin. We continued drinking a few more beers, trying to distract ourselves from our heavy thoughts. Finally, Liam sighed and decided to head home. "Hey, remember, don't say anything to her tonight. Wait until you transfer the truck and savings." "I know. But hopefully we can take care of this tomorrow. If I can't, I'm afraid I can't hold my anger towards her any longer. Depending on the situation, if you can't handle it, just call me. We'll find an excuse to go somewhere. Anything to get you away from her and less trouble." Liam nodded in gratitude, exhaustion evident on his face. "Thanks, Max. Really. Thanks for being a good friend and telling me right from the start. Unlike a certain other jerk I know." "No problem, man. Just don't tell John. He'll be sure to tell those girls." Liam left, leaving me sitting at the bar. I watched his retreating figure, my heart heavy before turning my attention back to Nancy. I couldn't help but admire her defiant beauty, but at the same time I felt I needed to tell her something. Nancy returned to my side with her usual playful smile. "Is your friend all right? Did he go home?" "Yeah, he'll probably be good for tonight, hopefully." "He's going to leave her, right?" Nancy asked, her eyes reflecting curiosity. "Absolutely. No way he's staying with her anymore. By the way, what time do you get off?" "You asking me out? Interested in me?" Nancy chuckled, referencing my previous joke. "Yeah, I am. At least I have the guts to admit it," I replied, smirking back at her. "You want me to have balls?" Nancy joked, raising an eyebrow. "No need for that. But what time do you get off?" "1 more hour. The other bartenders can handle it. If you want, we can go out for a drink after I'm done." "I'd love to take you to that coffee shop. Is it still open?" "Sure, it's open pretty late." "So, 1 hour then." Nancy nodded, returning to her duties. I, on the other hand, couldn't take my eyes off of her. There was something about her that drew me to her in a strange way. Her fierce attitude, her sassiness, and her confidence made it impossible to stop thinking about her. Not to mention she was stunning. And I have to admit, after 3 months since breaking up with Jessica, I was feeling a bit restless. When Nancy finished work, we left the club. I could feel the envious stares of a few men as they saw her leaving with me. Who knows, maybe some of them had slept with Jessica. But tonight, Nancy was mine. We went into the coffee shop, ordered 2 drinks, and sat down. This time she wasn't on her phone, but focused entirely on talking to me. "Thanks, Nancy," I said, breaking the silence. "Thanks for what? For coming here with me?" "No. Thanks for telling me the truth. Thanks for helping me and Liam get away from those women." Nancy looked at me, her eyes sincere compared to her usual sassiness. "I'm glad I could help you guys," she replied, her voice softer. I remembered my unanswered question from before. "Yesterday I asked why you did this for us, and you said you'd let me know when we got to know each other a little better. Now that we're here, can you tell me?" Nancy remained silent for a moment, as if weighing her words. Then, she leaned forward, her sapphire blue eyes seeming to speak volumes. "Maybe I just wanted to see someone get out of the awful cycle you guys were stuck in. I've seen so many guys like you taken advantage of without knowing, and maybe I've been in that position too." Nancy held my gaze for a few seconds before her eyes drifted elsewhere, clearly contemplating whether to reveal more. I decided not to let the opportunity slip away. "I know you were the one who tipped me off about Jessica. Why did you do that?" I continued, my voice more inquisitive. Nancy sighed, turning back to meet my gaze, her eyes carrying a hint of weariness but also determination. "Because she slept with my boyfriend last year. We were together for almost 3 years before Jessica decided to jump into our relationship. She couldn't stand seeing other people happy. That's why I let you know. I couldn't let her do that to anyone else without speaking up." I fell silent for a few seconds, letting Nancy's words sink into my mind. "So that's your way of getting revenge?" I asked. "No, I'm not the kind of person who seeks cheap revenge. I just thought that if I didn't say anything, she'd continue hurting more people. You can call it an act of kindness if you want." I chuckled dryly, then joked, "I can get revenge by seducing you." Nancy glared at me, but a mischievous glint appeared in her eyes. "No, I would never do that." "That's too low," she replied quickly and decisively. "What happened to your boyfriend after everything came out?" I asked. "I kicked him out. What else could I do?" she replied succinctly, as if it wasn't worth dwelling on any further. "So, it's all about getting back at Jessica and Becky." I was curious. Nancy laughed, this time more gently, but her eyes still held a hint of bitterness. "Not just that. Becky, she's no angel either. She slept with my first boyfriend in high school. Becky's always been like that, always stealing guys from other girls, like she thinks she's more deserving. Anyway, I've got nothing to lose. I just hope one day she'll face the consequences of her actions." I chuckled softly, adding a playful remark. "Remind me never to make you angry. With what Becky did, I'd be surprised if she hasn't given John a special gift by now." Nancy laughed out loud, her eyes sparkling. "Just hoping she gives him an STD and makes it all end sooner," she joked, her tone both sarcastic and bitter. I nodded. "You're right, but Liam's a good guy, he doesn't deserve that treatment." "True," Nancy replied, her voice softening slightly. "Neither of you do." I looked at her, filled with gratitude. "But if it weren't for you, we would never have known the truth. So, thank you, Nancy." She smiled, this time a more genuine smile than ever. "You're welcome," Nancy said, her grin returning to its radiant state. I leaned back in my chair, watching her for a few more seconds before getting serious again. "Can I ask you one more question? This is a very serious question, and I want you to think carefully before you answer." Nancy raised an eyebrow, her face becoming more serious. "Okay, what is it?" she asked. I took a deep breath, then burst out laughing. "My question is, how badly do you want me?" I grinned mischievously, a wide smile evident on my face. Nancy instantly shot me a disgusted look, but the corners of her lips curled up, a smile spreading across her face. "You jerk. I thought you were serious." I laughed loudly, unable to contain myself. "Look at your face, I can't help it." Nancy shook her head, but she couldn't hide her playful grin. "You're too smart for your own good." "Okay, fine, I want you. So what are you going to do about it?" I sat in silence for a moment, taken aback by her answer. Did she mean it? Then I want to take you home to show you just how badly I want you right now. Nancy didn't hesitate. Well, I should probably finish this coffee before you change your mind. She smiled, her eyes glinting with challenge. I quickly reached out, taking Nancy's hand, and we left the coffee shop, heading back to my apartment. The next morning, I had just managed to fall asleep when my phone buzzed. I rolled over, reached for my phone, and answered groggily. Liam, what time is it? I asked, my voice still sleepy. It's 9:30. Are you still asleep? Liam asked, sounding surprised. I glanced over at the side of the bed, seeing Nancy sleeping soundly, her naked body wrapped in a blanket. Yeah, I guess some people stayed up later than others, I replied, trying to stifle a laugh. My bank isn't open on Saturday. I can't stop wanting to yell at Mary all morning. No way I can keep this up until Monday. All right, let me get up, take a shower, and I'll call you back. Just try to keep away from her for now. She's out for coffee with those girls. They're probably gossiping about last night. Liam sighed, his voice weary. Okay, just keep calm. I'll call you back. I hung up, and shortly after, Nancy stirred, her eyes still half closed. She rolled over, her eyes fluttering open but her expression content. Hey beautiful, want to join me for a shower before I make us some coffee? I whispered. Nancy didn't answer verbally, just nodded slightly, then started getting out of bed. I watched her, her body just as beautiful as the night before, and we stepped into the bathroom together. We didn't have sex in the bathroom again, but the intimacy between us was still natural. We laughed, joked, and kissed as if we had never been apart. I had never been drawn to someone so quickly, not even with Jessica. It was just natural and deeper with Nancy. There are some things you don't need to explain, you just feel them. Early that morning, while pouring coffee, I dialed Liam. Hey Liam, I was thinking about that plan I mentioned last night, that gambling trip. Why don't we make it real? Let's go to Vegas this weekend, right now, how about it? Really? You want us to actually go? I thought it was just a fake plan. No, if we want it to be legitimate, we need bank statements, flight tickets, hotel reservations. We need actual proof that we were there. Liam was silent for a few seconds before replying. What will we do there? Actually gamble? We'll do everything except spend all your money at the casino. Withdraw all your savings, buy chips, but don't play them all. Then give the chips to me, I'll transfer the money into my account. And if there's a check, I'll just say I won big. No one can prove otherwise. Liam hesitated. You sure this will work? What about my truck? Simple. You just sign a transfer of ownership to me, and we'll write a simple agreement both of us sign. Maybe when we're in Vegas, we'll meet a lawyer, they'll know how to make it legal. Nancy heard the conversation and chimed in, You guys are really going to Las Vegas? Wait, is that Nancy? Liam asked over the phone. Yeah, it's Nancy. She spent the night. That's why I'm sleeping in, I replied with a bright smile, even though Liam couldn't see it. Liam chuckled. Nice, damn. Thanks, Liam. Listen, you need to book flights as soon as Mary's out of the house. But don't forget to bring the truck registration. Book the flight for this afternoon, we'll be back on Monday. I'll call my boss and take a leave of absence, shouldn't be a problem. What about you? Did you book your ticket? Don't worry, I'll arrange it right away. Just tell Mary it's a weekend getaway for me to relax after the breakup with Jessica. We've been planning this for weeks. Just pretend you don't remember if she asks. The important thing is to not let her suspect anything about what's going on between you two. Liam sighed. All right, I get it. Thanks for helping me, Max. If this works out, I'll never forget this. A few hours later, Nancy and I were at the airport with carry-on bags ready to fly to Las Vegas. Nancy decided to come with us, and since she was the bar manager, she didn't need to ask for time off. We booked 2 rooms at a large casino, but in my mind, I was more excited to spend time with Nancy than to worry about Liam and his divorce. The first night, the 3 of us had dinner at a fancy restaurant before heading out for drinks to kick off the evening. Liam chuckled, saying that Mary seemed happy that he was leaving for the weekend, saying that she would spend time with Becky and Jessica. Clearly, she wasn't shy about cheating on him when she didn't have to hide it anymore. On Saturday night, Liam withdrew half of his savings to buy casino chips. We only gambled symbolically for a few $100s before quickly transferring our winnings to my account. Nancy and I spent the rest of the evening in our hotel room, and there was a wonderful harmony between us. I couldn't remember being this happy with anyone, not even Jessica. Everything with Nancy was simply more natural and profound. The next morning we had coffee with Liam and made plans for Sunday. That night he withdrew the rest of the money from his savings account, leaving just enough for Mary not to notice anything unusual. The plan was going smoothly, and I could see hope dawning on Liam's face. We won big in our own way, and ultimately, both Liam and I knew that we were about to get out of our current trouble. On Monday morning we found a small law office near the Strip. The lawyer quickly notarized the transfer of Liam's truck to my name. Then we went to the DMV to complete the paperwork before catching our flight back to Anaheim. Now, Liam officially lost everything, meaning Mary would be unable to touch anything after their divorce. On Monday afternoon, we were back in Anaheim. Liam silently packed his luggage and laptop while Mary was at work. He would stay at my apartment for a few days until he found a new place to live. Liam hadn't told Mary that he was leaving her, but he had a plan. He'd invited her to a bar near his work to meet after work. In a public place, he hoped the conversation would be less tense and minimize Mary's explosive reactions. However, Mary wasn't easy to handle. According to Liam's story, when we were drinking beers at my apartment, her reaction was a little chaotic. But the most interesting part was how Liam turned the tables while waiting for Mary to arrive. Liam told Mary that they needed to talk and that he knew about her infidelity. But the twist was that he said John accidentally confessed to everything. According to the story Liam made up, he and John had a heated argument that morning, and in the heat of the moment, John blurted out about Mary cheating on Liam all this time. John revealed that the three women, Becky, Jessica, and Mary, had been best friends long before they met us, and that they had been constantly going out to find fun with other men, even bringing them back to John and Becky's place to have sex. Of course, John never revealed anything like that, but the fact that Liam used John's name to get revenge made the story completely convincing. At first, Mary angrily denied everything, but when she realized the truth had been exposed, she started to swear and blame Liam. That's when he gave her the divorce papers he had prepared in advance, written and signed at a lawyer's office that afternoon. Sipping beers together, Liam and I couldn't help but burst out laughing as we thought about it. We both wondered how Becky would react when she heard about John's betrayal. Even if John denied it, we were sure Becky wouldn't believe him. She never respected John, and after this there would be even less reason to believe him. The best part of the story happened a few weeks later when Liam and Mary went to court for their divorce. Their total assets were only about $12,000 worth of household items. Liam agreed to let Mary keep everything except his clothes, tools, and personal computer. But Mary didn't stop there. She requested a check for over $80,000 in savings and the new work truck worth $40,000 that she claimed Liam was hiding. When Liam explained to the court that he lost both the savings and the truck in a gambling trip in Las Vegas just before they filed for divorce, and that it was a major reason for their marriage breakdown, the court accepted that these assets were no longer there. Mary had no way to touch that money or the truck anymore. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I kept my promise and transferred all of Liam's money back to his account and signed the truck back to him. As for Nancy, she moved in with me, bringing her captivating smile and strong personality with her. She even introduced Liam to a friend of hers named Haley, a kind, decent girl with no dark past like Mary or Jessica. Our lives finally became easier, and we all knew we had escaped the troubles of the past and were ready to start anew. One Wednesday evening, Nancy and I left a restaurant near our apartment after enjoying a delicious meal. On the sidewalk, we walked slowly, hand in hand, chatting casually. But this time, Nancy asked something deeper than our usual conversations. "Max, tell me, are you happy?" "Happy?" "Yeah, about us. It all happened so fast. We meet, then move in together. With everything that happened before, I just wonder if you're truly happy with everything." I smiled. "Actually, I'm very happy. You know, after everything with Jessica, my life changed completely. My plan used to be marrying her, having a family, and then it all fell apart. But a few months later, I met you and my life changed in a way I never expected." "Really? You remember how hard I made it for you? To be honest, I was a little bit of a jerk back then." "Yeah, you made me work for it, but I realized that you're a great person beneath that tough exterior." "Are you sure it's not because I'm hot?" Nancy teased, flashing a mischievous smile. I chuckled. "You are definitely hot, but it's more than that. You saved me from the biggest mistake of my life, and you helped Liam too. You didn't have to do that, but you did." Nancy shrugged. Don't forget I had some personal revenge to get. It wasn't all for you. Yeah, you said that. But either way, I'm glad things happened the way they did. Nancy smiled. Liam is too. You know Haley is really into him. Just as I was about to respond, we unexpectedly saw Jessica walking towards us. She was dressed up, arm in arm with her boss, Thomas. We all froze for a moment as we met each other's eyes. I admit that I'd imagined running into Jessica and Thomas before, and in my head, I even had a scene where I knocked him down and called her a cheap slut. But since meeting Nancy, Jessica wasn't a major concern for me anymore. However, if he dared to say anything to Nancy, things would get ugly. Jessica quickly regained her composure, but her expression changed from surprise to anger as she saw my arm around Nancy. She definitely realized who had ruined everything she and her group of friends had planned. Nancy, you bitch. Jessica shouted, full of rage. I should have known it was you. Nancy remained unfazed. She responded immediately, her eyes flashing with defiance. How does it feel to be played, Jessica? You slept with my boyfriend, so I took your man. And guess what? I think I got the better end of the deal. Jessica scoffed. I don't know about that. Thomas and I are very happy, we're even engaged. She held out her hand, showing off a sparkling diamond ring. Nancy wasn't fazed. You know what, Thomas? She turned to Jessica's fiancé. She's still hooking up with other guys while she's with you. That's a lie. Jessica shouted, clinging to Thomas' arm more tightly, but I could see she was tense. Nancy continued without hesitation. I saw her kissing other guys and leaving my club with them just last week. You've got a real gold digger here. Get lost, Jessica yelled, pulling Thomas away from us. Before they could get far, I turned to Thomas with a smirk. She's a slut, always has been and always will be. Nancy chuckled softly, giving Jessica one last goodbye. Thanks, Jessica. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have met Max. So, thank you very much. We continued walking, the sound of Jessica and Thomas arguing fading behind us. As we neared our apartment building, I turned to Nancy, unable to hold back a smile. You really do feel grateful to her for meeting me? Absolutely. I've never been happier, especially since I got to say it all to her face. I laughed. Sounds petty, but damn, it feels good. You have no idea, Nancy replied, her eyes sparkling as we stepped into our apartment. A year passed since that fateful encounter. Now, Nancy and I are engaged. The biggest surprise is that I just found out her family is incredibly wealthy. They own not only the bar Nancy manages, but also many other businesses. They even promised to gift us an apartment as a wedding present. Yes, an actual apartment. Liam and Haley are also happy together, and Liam recently mentioned that he plans to propose to her. It feels like we've all been given a chance to start over. As for Becky, she divorced John before we saw Jessica again. Becky blamed John for ruining everything, like a selfish, entitled bitch. Liam and I cut off contact with John since then. As for Jessica and Thomas, I have no idea if they're still together, and honestly, I don't care. But I'm sure that Liam and I are both free from all the trouble, and that's what matters. As for Nancy, I couldn't be happier. Beneath that tough exterior, she is the kindest, most caring, and loving woman I've ever met. And that, to me, is worth everything. Yes, sometimes the light comes right after the darkest days.